was a fun intro. Um, Excited to get introduce you guys to Lane Dogstader. He is hosting Thrive in the Hive, a new show, and he has a great special guest that he will introduce to you later. But let me tell you a little bit about Lane. He's a dynamic professional with a multifaceted background that truly sets him apart in the world of business and social media. With over a decade of experience in the financial sector, Lane holds a degree in finance from the University of Utah and an MBA from the Minnesota School of Business. I don't know how you found time to do both of those, Lane. It always shocks me when I read that. But he's not only worked with three of the top financial firms as a financial advisor, but also worked in the top firms in taxes and Medicare. Lane's journey goes beyond a traditional financial landscape, where he's a seasoned LinkedIn coach and trainer, contributing his expertise to a massive platform for over 4 years. Embracing innovation, he has seamlessly transitioned over to what we're on now, BeeKonnected, the cutting edge social media platform often held as the new Zoom technology. As a certified BeeKonnected expert for the past 6 years, Lane is at the forefront of empowering business through an all in one networking powerhouse. Oh, well, not just a man of numbers and strategy, Lane is also accomplished AI artist, creating mesmerizing digital artwork using the Leonardo AI platform. And you're dedicated to arts, complements your creativity and storytelling online. Outside of the business, he looks to make a difference in the world. And you're also a former drone pilot, which is also fun, with a passion for outdoors. So welcome, Lane, or thanks for letting me to introduce you, Lane.
Well, thank you, Angela. Well, Angela, in her own right, is an amazing coach here on BeeKonnected. She's also an amazing loan professional, and she's just a great person to get to know and network with. So, thank you, Angela, and welcome to the Live in the Hive show, everybody. This is a new show. Basically, the main goal of this show is to find one problem that each business solves, so we can solve solutions one at a time in the world, and then hopefully get a few actionable steps that we can take away with us to make a difference in our own business, but also get to know someone. So our guest today is one of our elite experts here on BeeKonnected coach. She's also an elite mentorship forum trainer, speaker, and author. And she has an executive coaching program and journey to wholeness. She also has a bachelor's in psychology from WSU Vancouver. And we'll save the rest as we talk to her. We'd like to learn a little bit more. And so with that, I'd like to introduce you to Shawna Burkholder. Hi, Shawna.
Well, hello, Lane. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, well, thank you so much. This is exciting to have having a new show here. This is the second episode, but the first live show. I met with Alan Stevens, as you may know, from Australia before, and that's always interesting to deal with a different time zone from someone on the other side of the world. Yep. So where in the world are you located? It's fun to talk to so many people at BeeKonnected in different parts of the world.
Right. Well, I don't feel like I'm so far away from you, considering, like you said, Alan was in Australia. I am just outside of Seattle, Washington. I was born and raised in the state of Washington, so I haven't traveled too far from home to establish myself as far as where I live and where I work. Although now that we're all digital and doing online work, I work worldwide. I'm international, so I like that.
Yeah, we can talk to anyone in the world. It's so much fun. So my sister and her husband, they live, I believe it's called Richfield, Washington. They actually own a grocery store there. They started that right at the beginning of COVID, and it's done really, really well. So yeah, I have a sister in. So next time I go to Washington, I'll have to visit my sister and you at the same time.
And I'm not far. I used to live very close to Richfield. I almost said, oh, I've probably shopped there, but I haven't lived there since pre-COVID, so not likely.
Okay, at least not the same store that they have now, probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
So awesome. Well, so are you originally from Washington, or where are you originally from?
Olympia, Washington. Yes.
Olympia.
Mhm.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Shawna?
Ooh, sometimes I feel like I'm still trying to figure that out. Which, when we think about it, we all should be. If we've got ourselves so dialed in, it almost means that there's, what's the fun and the adventure of exploring what comes next, right? What I will share is I think it pertains to Thrive in the Hive. And by the way, Lane, I love that title. I was like, I wish I would have thought of that one. Um, what I realize is I really am looking forward to providing what I hope will be some very helpful direction and wisdom and tips for our audience, people that are watching. So I'll kind of go back as far as what I think relates to this. I did 25 years working in different types of nonprofits, from the Chamber of Commerce, American Red Cross, doing disaster response, but always in the offices of either communication, marketing, or fundraising. And the fundraising came within the last 10, 12 years. And what I found was that was how do I want to say this? I was terrified. I didn't think I could ask people for money. I'll be honest about that. But what I realized is there was this shift in me that all the years that I was telling as communications, I was telling people about the good work that our nonprofits did, what the missions were, how we were serving the community. And it was always a story, right? We had volunteers helping at blood drives, we had volunteers going to fires, or, for the other nonprofits I worked with, whatever their mission was. And being the person that asked for support was no more than telling that story and ending it with an invitation. Wouldn't you like to be part of this good work? Wouldn't you like to help the homeless in our community, or the foster children, or the domestic violence shelter? And when I had that realization, it became easy to help other people support the missions that I felt really strongly connected to. And in that last 12 or 15 years that I was doing the fundraising component, I got to meet an amazing amount of people who often were self-made, and they had the ability from their business and having grown their personal wealth to be able to give back to the community, and they were generous, and it was, they believed in giving back. Some of them, it was their calling, and just for a number of different reasons. But it was really interesting to hear their stories of how they got to a point in their life that they wanted to be able to be generous and make contributions and feel something that they were doing meaningful in their community. And I really, after a while, was like, I want to be on the other side of the table. I want to be the one that's being, and I realized that, I don't know if most people know this, but when you're working for a smaller nonprofit or medium size, the wages for the staff aren't usually, all that generous. I mean, it's a livable wage, but for the smaller ones, it's not a tremendous amount. So I then made the decision to leave the nonprofit world sector, and I became a licensed financial advisor, like you were. And that
Oh,
was good because then I was able to take which was great because I had role models. I was seeing people who had somehow built their wealth, but I didn't know, I didn't know the insides of how they did that. And then I went to the other side of the table. I was still working with people with their money, not my money, but I better understood the mechanisms of vehicles that allowed me to do that, and really good habits. Actually, I had pretty good habits, which was have served me really well. But then I made that transition into being a planner. But underneath it all, one of the things, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, is I think the phrase is I was climbing the ladder of success only to get high enough up the rungs that I could have a better view, and realized I was on the wrong ladder. It wasn't that I wasn't good at what I did, and that I really, really believed in the mission work for my nonprofits, and I enjoyed helping other people become even more financially secure, let's put it that way. But that's not what my heart was calling me to do. I had always wanted to be able to help people move forward in their lives so that they could have that place of meaning. So I decided to get licensed as a trainer and accredited as a coach, and shifted my career path into what I do now.
Wow. Okay. So not so much in the financial realm or the nonprofit. You're doing other coaching now. So what is the basics of what you're doing? What kind of
Oh,
coaching are you doing?
yeah. Well, as many coaches do, regardless of the title, what we do tends to be what we've experienced. And so I really have honed in on coaching corporate women, professional women who, again, have worked their way up or are working their way up that ladder. And, and they might even be on the right ladder, but what's happening in their lives is they want to do more, and they are doing more, and they are feeling like they're split between all of their different obligations at work, at home, their parents who are elderly, their young kids who still have, school obligations, and they feel the symptoms of burnout, but it's going to materialize in the way of, always feeling fatigued, always feeling like I'm not doing enough, feeling like, well, okay, if I'm not doing enough because I'm not getting things done, you start making sacrifices. So they stop going to the gym, or they stop doing things with their friends and they're going to work early and they're staying late. They're making all these little sacrifices that over time kind of turn them into like workaholics. And that puts stress on the home life. And it doesn't seem like, and they're always saying yes to projects at work because they're good at what they do and they like the acknowledgement that they're dependable, but they're not necessarily getting compensated. So my goal is to work with these ladies before they've gotten to the point where they are burned out. I mean, burned out to the point where their health has suffered. They may become estranged with their children. They might be separated or on their way towards divorce. They don't seem to be able to manage all of their work responsibilities because they didn't have boundaries to say, I can't do it all. And now they're looking at choices and none of them look good. And I know that world because I was in that world. And I did have to make some hard choices. And I thought, I am never doing that again. And so I, again, took a different path and realized that I needed to create some boundaries for myself, figure out what I wanted to do and what I love to do. And that's brought me here today.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so often with coaches, I find that the them of 5 or 10 years previous that were going through those problems.
Mhm.
That's a lot of times that's what they focus on. That's who they want to help is their persona,
Yeah.
of 5 or 10 years earlier. So sounds like
Mhm.
that's the same with you as well.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah, that's amazing that you reach out and find people in that same situation that you can give a hand up to them, because as
Mhm.
long as we're a couple steps ahead of the other person, we can make a difference for them, right?
Yes. And that's why it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but that's kind of a great lead into why I named my coaching program Journey to Wholeness. I live in the Northwest. We have beautiful landscape here, lots of mountains and forests and trails and rivers and rainforest, I mean, a volcano. We have it all, right? So I tend to be an outdoorsy type. So I often had the visual of being on a trail with my client and literally with them, and sometimes ahead of them with the flashlight if we're in a dark spot, and saying, just, I'm here to guide you. And sometimes I'm side by side and sometimes I'm behind them, but I have to remind them that there are switchbacks, but there's also these amazing vistas, and it's okay to stop along the way and take assessment, that you might be climbing towards the pinnacle or the summit of a mountain, but you shouldn't be in such a hurry that you're exhausting yourself along the way and not resting or taking good care of yourself, so you're in the right mental and physical space to be on this journey, so that you feel like you are whole again, that you're not leaving part of yourself out. Sometimes people will call it that work-life balance. I think of it as a wholeness component, that there's multiple aspects to our lives, and we shouldn't have to sacrifice pieces of them and feel like we're leaving them behind or ignoring them to feel like a whole person. So that's why it's Journey to Wholeness.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. And so, so for those who are seeking that wholeness,
Mhm.
what advice would you give to them?
Ooh, for me, it kind of depends on where they are in the path. Um, and I do this a lot when I work with people. Like, we'll just say we'll do an hour discovery call. It's not always one of my programs. I call it Burnout to Bliss. I'm hoping people haven't gotten to the point of burnout, and there is a continuum. There's like let's just call it 15 guideposts on the journey. And if they've gotten so far down the road that they are suffering from real burnout, I may have to make the recommendation that they see a doctor or a counselor, because if
Mm,
it's gotten to the point where they feel despondent and they're using drugs or alcohol to self-medicate, and things like that, that's beyond my scope. So there's this continuum of, I'm just starting out and I'm starting to feel stressed and overwhelmed. Well, that's not unusual. I think stress is part of what we all go through. It's not an unnatural thing, but are you constantly stressed? Do you never feel like you can get out from the yoke of feeling that burden that you're not doing enough? Like you're always on the treadmill and
mm,
and you can't get off. That's when I talk to people. So, I have some simple tips that I give people. Part of it is like boundary work, and some of it's self care. One of which is, I use the example all the time. This is my cell phone. And I said, we become addicted to our phones. And if you're a workaholic, you're probably checking for emails. You're probably checking stuff, right? To make sure that nothing is going unattended that needs your attention. And that's fine. But if you're also fatigued and you go to bed and in the middle of the night you're waking up multiple times, and the first thing you do is grab your phone to see if something needs attention, that's just contributing to the treadmill, right? So my big tip is, as much as it's hard to break the habit, is to not have your phone next to you on the bed. Now, if at all possible, put it in a different room. But for a lot of people, it's like, but it's my alarm clock these days. And so my suggestion is, go buy an old fashioned alarm clock. It doesn't have to be your only choice, but if it is what you need, then if you're lucky enough to have a primary bedroom with an ensuite, plug it into the bathroom, so that if you're at least going to go look at your phone, you have to get up to go to it. So that's going to help you have better sleep, create some boundaries. It will reduce your cortisol because you're not always triggering yourself with those things to do. So that's one of the tips that I would offer.
yeah, that's a good tip. That's one thing I do. I put my phone on the other. I do still use it as my alarm clock, but I
Mhm.
put it on the other side of the room,
Mhm.
and I put it in airplane mode. And
Yes.
so when I wake up, I just turn it off, and then I go
Mhm.
do other things, so that I'm not like starting my day in the, going on Facebook and seeing all the drama or whatever, right?
Exactly. And I'm a big proponent on having both evening routines, so that you set yourself up for a good night's sleep, but also morning routines where you take care of you first. I was a student of Stephen Covey's work back in, oh boy, it would have been like 1994, 95. And one is sharpen the saw. If you've gotten to the point where you think of yourself as doing the work, you're the saw, and you never sharpen it, it's a dull blade. You have to work twice as hard to get something done. So I always recommend having a morning routine. And I talk to people, what do you do now? And what can we build upon? And it's just a matter of changing your habits. What can you do less of? Just like you said, just don't get on social media right out of bed, versus, and then maybe substitute that. And for some people, it's going to be maybe 15 minutes of something and then a half an hour. Some people have to jump up, and I was like, do you really have to? So part of it is holding someone accountable to what they've told themselves. I have to get on right away because I don't know, if there's a fire to put out. And it's like, will that fire burn down the building if you wait 15 minutes? And maybe it does. And if that's the case, then we work out other options. So yeah.
And it's that constant beeping at me too. Whenever it beeps, I want to look at it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I silenced my phone, which at first was a little difficult because people would say, well, I sent you an email or I sent you a text or, and I don't get the notification because I have it on silent. But I do schedule regular times where I control my, my schedule to look at it. And it's regular. It's like almost every hour on the hour, but it doesn't interrupt what I'm focused on. That way, because we know that when we get interrupted, it almost takes 20 more minutes to get back into that zone where you're focused on what you're doing.
yes, definitely. So it's important to set up those boundaries, right? So we can
Sorry about that. Yes.
yeah, for
Mm.
sure. So just to be clear,
Mhm.
what is the problem? You've kind of alluded to this, but I just want to make sure we really solidify this. What is the problem that you solve for your clients?
Mm. I see it in a couple of different ways. Predominantly, it's the person that is highly stressed and overwhelmed and has the mindset that they have to do more in order to solve their problem, and they don't. There's really a lot of psychology that goes into you can actually do less and get more accomplished. And that is a hard thing to unravel for people, but that's what I saw. You can be more successful, get more done, be more productive, have a more balanced life without doing more in the realm of like work and housework, if because I deal predominantly with women, there are ways to do other things, or let's rephrase that. There are ways to set yourself up for success so you don't have to physically do all of the things on your own. And some of the other tips I have are pretty applicable for entrepreneurs that maybe even aren't in that niche that I serve.
Nice, nice. So would part of that have to do with focus? Because it seems like sometimes we just get so distracted and it's almost like squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. We're going all over the place. So do you think part of the success for many people could be to simplify and focus on one thing and do that really, really well?
I think that's part of it, but I think that that's a smaller part of a bigger component. Because first of all, before we know what we're focusing on, we need to know what our priorities are. One of the things I do personally is I make sure that sometimes I do it every morning, but oftentimes I do it at the beginning of the week. What's the one or two things I need to do that's going to move the needle so that if I do them first, it's going to make everything else easier? Because I could say I'm going to focus on being in Canva and make, a dozen posts, but if that's not what's going to help me build my business or accomplish something, then basically that's more like busy time. So we have to make sure that what we're focusing on are what people would call the right things. Although I don't usually like to call them right, because right and wrong is, again, something to do with mindset. And we don't want to say that doing Canva graphics is wrong. It's just that there's probably something better I could be using my time on. And so I work with people and say, well, let's get to the core of what you do in business that only you can do, that's not delegatable, that's not duplicatable, that you can't automate, that is your core piece and that you need to focus on. And then how do we make sure that's your priority in your business and focus on that? So yes, so they're kind of combined.
Nice. Well, we did get a question from Roberta here. Let me share that. It says she's saying, "What role does self-awareness play in
Huh.
needing to do more and more to get more done?" How would you respond to that?
Oh, um, it's huge. Self-aware. Okay, so I was like, where do I want to start? That's self-awareness. Actually, is one of the things when I was kind of writing down what I wanted to share, I wrote down mindset, because what I realize is, and I want to speak right now specifically to the solopreneurs or someone who's a newer entrepreneur, because we often feel like we have to wear all the hats, as I call it, right? We
Right.
have to be the coach and or whatever the business that you might be in, so and the marketer and the database entry person, and and we wear all the hats. So part of self-awareness is recognizing that, where is my priority, and am I the deliverer? So am I the here's a good example: the dentist, right? You have someone who's a dentist and he wants to open his own dental clinic. He's got also an MBA in business, so he knows how to do it, so he's very capable, but he sees himself as a dentist first. But in reality, he's a business owner, and the service that his business delivers is dentistry, right? And it doesn't even have to be him. At some point, that person, him or her, I should say, they may hire another dentist, but they have to wear the hat of entrepreneur. I have a business to run. I need to know what the financials are. I need to be able to do the marketing. I need to make sure that I've got clients coming through the door, or that delivery of services, dentistry, isn't going to matter. So I think self identity, how we identify as entrepreneur, small business owner, and then thirdly, what is the service that we're providing, is one of the hats, but it's secondary to the first one of being in business for ourselves.
Nice, nice. And what else do you feel to share? What's something that's like the next thing that you feel to share? What do you have?
Well, I've learned a couple of things along the way, and I'd love to talk about that. Two things. So I will say also, know your worth. I think also when we're starting out and we're wearing all the hats and we feel like, we don't have necessarily the means, or we don't think we have the means to delegate to people because we don't have a staff, for instance. But I need people to recognize, what is your value when it comes to your services? Is it $100 an hour, $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour? And think about that, and say that's the thing that's we'll call it a superpower. My superpower is coaching folks one-on-one, and this is my worth per hour if I'm going to break it down for my program that I offer. Then think about the other things that I'm doing. And it could be data entry into my CRM. It could be designing, and I use this example a lot because I actually enjoy the creativity of being in Canva and creating things. I know you use your AI and it's fun for you and you do it. But when I think about it, I'm not exactly as adept at it. It may take me a little longer than someone who does it professionally. So, do I really want to spend 3 hours at my rate doing Canva when I could delegate that to someone else who would do it at a much lower hourly rate? Because I have to look at, but this is where I should be spending my time and what I'm worth versus here's where I'm spending my time and what I could pay someone else to do it. And so whether that's stuff I'm doing around the house that I could bring in a high schooler to help me with, or go to the local community college and have them do data entry for me because they're happy to get paid $20 an hour, or I'm using an outsourcing service like Fiverr. There are ways for us to delegate to other people time consuming tasks that are not our superpowers but are eating up our time. So I think that that's really important for people to realize. It is, you come out money ahead or time ahead by outsourcing or delegating things that are not your superpowers. You might enjoy them, but it may be taking you away from being a successful business person.
Yeah, so focusing on your superpower and delegating the rest, right?
Yep, yep. And then the other tip, and I'm keep thinking this is not new for most people, but I'm hoping that every once in a while you just have to hear it from someone else or hear it differently before that light bulb will go on, and you're like, oh yes, this sounds like she's talking about me.
Right?
Whereas before it wasn't, right? I know I was one of those persons like, oh, and they say it's going to take multiple times before that light bulb goes on. My other is, it was really strange. In my last job, when I was a planner, the owner of the company used to use the word systematize, which for some reason, when I first heard it, it kind of, it's like, I don't think I like that word. And it might have been that I didn't understand it. Now, creating a system for yourself so that it saves you time is like, oh, that's what I shoot for, right? And that could be creating a webinar that's evergreen. Basically, you create it once. And I love BeeKonnected for this now, that we're able to upload our premium content. So
Yes.
someone could purchase your webinar, whether it's 1 hour or half a day, it could be a workshop, whatever it is, and you don't have to be there.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, that's amazing. It's just like, wow. And it still adds value. And if you create it correctly, it does provide value for the person who's watching it. It gives them kind of, let's call it entry level information. If they need to go the next step with you, you provide that call to action and how they can best get hold of you and what you're going to offer in that next step. And then that might be when you bring them on as someone you work with one-on-one, or even better, one to many. Maybe multiple people watch that webinar and you say, at the beginning of every month, I start a new group where I bring the group and take them through the next phase. And then it's one to many. So you've created this system where instead of necessarily meeting with 20 individual clients, and different days of the week, different times, and they start at different, you've now created a system. You've got group program. And for those people that say, but I need specialty one-on-one assistance because this is where my problem is stuck and I really want you to give me direction. It's kind of like, giving someone a map on a trail that everybody takes versus someone that says, but I'm in the thick of it and I don't know, I don't even have a machete. I need you to get me out of this mess. Can you help me? That's a one-on-one, right? And so that's the superpower where you get to really dive in, help your client specifically. And that's where you actually also get to charge more because it's not a group program or a systematized webinar, which again requires a funnel and a lead magnet and all of that stuff that hopefully you have figured out how to delegate that out to someone else, so that you're not spending your valuable time on doing that.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's nice. You were talking about you can put your content out there, and maybe someone in Australia watches it at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're sleeping, and
Mm-hmm.
you're still doing coaching that
You
way.
are.
So
Yeah.
it's amazing to be able to have the
Yeah.
technology that we have.
Mhm.
For sure, for sure. Well, just we'll close with one kind of a fun question.
Yes.
If you could switch places for one day with anyone on the planet, who would it be?
Wow. Oh wow. Um, that's hard because there's so many wonderful people
This
out
is
there.
true. This is true.
I think, and it's funny, I don't know that I would say switch places, but the first person that came to my mind was Oprah. And I don't know that if I could switch places, it would be only if I could somehow have an understanding of her history. Let's put it
Mm,
that way. Not because I want to live where she's in this moment of time, but I her as someone who has overcome a lot. She's a self-made woman. She's probably well, I know she's battled with her weight and her image, but I also think that in the world of business and in media and in the networks, you might say, she's probably had to figure out, how do I stand up for myself? How do I be clear about what's important to me? What are my routines? How do I surround myself with good people? If I could like switch places so that I could somehow absorb all of that knowledge that she has lived, that wisdom, that would be wonderful. But just to live a day in the day of her, I like my life. I think I'll stick it out because, like I said, it's kind of an adventure. I like the path I'm on, and I'm excited to see where I go.
Wow, that's a powerful thing. I think I just heard you say, stand up as a powerful you. Find my way and find and build people around me
Yes.
To move forward. So that's some great advice for sure. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much, Shawna. It's been a pleasure here Thrive in the Hive, and it's been good to get to know you. And I look forward to visiting Washington and visiting it. It's going to be so fun in the future when we have a chance to visit all these BeeKonnected experts from
Yes,
around
I've
the
been
world.
thinking about having a regional meetup for anyone in the Northwest. Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Yes.
well, I really appreciate the invitation, Lane, that you had me here and you let me share. It was just, this is what I love doing, so I appreciate it.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your night. And we'll plan on networking, connecting again soon.
Sounds good.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye, everybody.